Hey everyone, thanks for taking a look at this preview of the digital version of the meiosis lesson. I want to walk you through what it would look like from the student aspect, and then we can take a look at the teacher presentation as well. So for the student aspect of the lesson, the title screen has our guiding question: how do organisms pass down their genetic information to their offspring? And the focus of the lesson is really at looking at creating those haploid cells that are going to pass down genetic information. So it will go through the different steps of meiosis and looking at what the chromosomes do in each of those steps, but there isn't an emphasis on the naming of the steps. So I want to make sure that that's clear in this lesson. So we have our table of contents here. Students are going to start with a reading passage about meiosis. They have a highlighter bar at the bottom that they can move around to highlight different parts of the passage. They can make copies of it to highlight other pieces. They can also make a text box on the side to take notes. The reading passage will take them through the different steps, again without naming the steps or the phases of meiosis, but just kind of thinking about what's happening to the chromosomes to get that end result of haploid cells. There is a little information about crossing over. This is on its own slide, so if you decide that you don't want to go over crossing over with your middle school students, it's easy to pull that out. And then finally a glossary. There are a lot of high-level science vocabulary words in this section, and so there's a glossary here to help students out. Students will then, this is a nice check-in for the reading, so this is a review of the reading passage by answering a few questions from the reading. And then these slides here are really designed to be done whole classroom. And when we take a look at the teacher presentation in a minute, you'll see that there's some slides that go along with it from the teacher's perspective. But this really is a way to walk students whole class through that process of meiosis. Instructions are in the notes section at the bottom of each slide, and students will take their chromosomes, make copies of them, and move them through each of the steps in each of the slides. Okay. So all the way to the end, again, with getting to that final look of the 4 haploid cells. These next 2 slides are really great to use as a small group, so sort of going from whole class to small group and then finally to an independent practice. So in these 2 slides, again, students are going to walk their chromosomes through the different steps, but this time they're going to do it all on the same page. So they've got division 1 here, where they'll make copies and set up their chromosomes into each of the cell pictures, diagrams. And then they have a space down here where they're going to write a caption for what's happening at each of those steps. And then division 2 is on the second slide. They've also got some follow-up questions here. So thinking about how they started and how they ended, and were they the same or different, and how does it compare to the original cell. So really getting to the heart of what's the purpose of meiosis. Finally, again, emphasizing that what is the purpose of meiosis, that idea of just looking at how do we go from diploid cells to haploid cells. In these following 3 slides, students are going to be given a starting cell, and then it's up to them to just really, without having to go through all the steps, think about, okay, so how would that end? What would that look like at the end of the process? And then these are, instead of diagrams, in written form. Can they tell us how the process ends? What do the haploid cells look like at the end? In these remaining slides, this is a nice way to have students do some independent practice and really assess their knowledge of meiosis. There are 2 different forms for this final piece that could be set up as an independent assessment or practice. In this form, this looks a lot like what they've been doing previously. They're going to select their own chromosomes and decide how they want their cell to start. And then in each of the slides, they're going to take them through each of the steps and then write captions for those steps at the bottom. So this is one format that they could choose. So they'll be taking their chromosomes through each of the steps. There's a second setup that looks like this. So in this setup, again, they're going to select how they want their cell to start. And then instead of having all 5 steps on one page, they've got individual steps. So again, here's step 1. What would it look like in step 1? They'll write their caption down. Step 2, step 3. both of these can be run through as a presentation in the end. This setup does look a little bit nicer as you run it through the presentation. You can really see the chromosomes moving through the process, and the students get to set that up themselves. So that's a lot of fun for them. But it really is up to you. This gives some freedom of choice for the students or you to decide what you think would work best for them. And you just have to delete the slides you don't use. You can also consider pulling these slides out and making them their own assignment so that you can see that there's a lot of slides here, and sometimes for our students that can be overwhelming. And so you can definitely pull this piece out and have it be the true independent assessment at the end of the lesson. So now I just want to take a quick look at the teacher presentation that also comes with this lesson. So you get the student activities, but then you also get the teacher presentation. This is just a nice slideshow to kind of talk through students remembering what you learned about mitosis, and then really thinking about, so what's the difference between mitosis and meiosis, and why would we need this process that comes to this end conclusion of having half the number of chromosomes? What's the purpose of that? So it really is just about getting that discussion going before they tackle the reading and the activities. So you can find this on Teachers to Be Teachers. The link's in the description. I hope you enjoyed the preview. Feel free to send me emails or messages if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.